So, welcome to Judiciary 2. Today we have our House Sergeant at Arms, Marvin Lee, all in caps. He's big today. Marvin Lee. Then we have Michael Galloway, Warren Hawkins, and Russell Salisbury. Thank you guys for helping. I had to give Marvin a hard time because his name came out in all caps. Next we have some pages with us. Behind Barkrava? Got it right? No? Sponsored by Representative Jeffries. If you want to tell us your correct name, that'd be great. Come on up, stand up and just tell us your name. Beyond Barkrava. Not too bad in my ear. Thomas Bloom, sponsored by Representative Dean Art. Carter Emanuelson, sponsored by Representative Maria Cervena. And Chris Porras, sponsored by Representative Dennis Rydell. Thank you, pages, and we hope you get to learn a lot going on here. I'm going to relinquish the gavel for just a minute because we have that wonderful 308 right back in front of us. Representative Carson Smith, the only Smith we have now.
It is. Representative Stevens moves the PCS to House Bill 308 be before the committee, and without objection, I so order. Representative Stevens, you can explain your bill.
God bless you. I promise the only thing this bill is back here for is some of the things you complained about, and that is we will not default to consecutive sentence. We will put a mandate for the judge to decide. Is it consecutive or is it concurrent? And he must decide. That is the change in the bill, and as far as we know, then from here it'll go to the floor. So
Any discussion or questions from committee? Representative Butler.
Yeah, I really appreciate that change, Madam Chair, because I think that was the largest objection to this bill. So thank you for that. And while, again, I'm still concerned about the possibility of longer incarcerations, more prisoners, and all that sort of stuff, the bill is much improved. So I'll leave it at that.
Any other questions? Did anyone sign up? It appears they did not. This would be an appropriate time for a motion if anybody would like to make one. Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion of favorable to the PCS, unfavorable to the original with, on House Bill 308 with a referral to the House floor.
With a referral to, sounds good to me. Everybody's heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 308 is favorable, reported to the floor, we think. Madam Chair.
all right, thank you. Next, we will have Representative Ignelli. Are you ready to proceed? House Bill 193, firearms revisions, and it will be going to education from here. So here, we invite you up front. You get to, we don't make you sit in the back.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, committee. This bill, in my opinion, is fairly simple. We kept it pretty broad, just for the fact that we want to make sure that they can find somebody who has the abilities and training. As you know, right now, just talking about the first part of the bill, whether it be public or private, you're not allowed to have a firearm on that campus unless you are a police officer, active police officer, or some law enforcement. So this would allow some of these smaller private schools, which lately we tend to see to be the target that's happening a lot with school shootings, to be able to have somebody that they designate to be able to add some layer of protection to them until the law enforcement can get there if there happens to be a situation. A lot of times unable to be able to afford their own security necessarily, or an SRO, this will allow them to, they could hire security guards or somebody else that would have training. And it's already been brought up. There's nothing listed here on training. Well, we left it kind of broad for right now for some bills that are floating around in our chamber that would make some differences as far as whether they be concealed carry or constitutional carry or what. So I'll stand for any questions on any of the bill.
I'm just going to ask if you want to talk about the shooting ranges.
I can. if you'd like to. That one, I think, is pretty simple, and I'll tell you where this comes from, basically, too. Our FOP in our county, but I'm sure it happens elsewhere, they had to move and build a new facility after being at the other one for close to 50 years, out in a very rural part of the county. It's actually near my house. But they're having some issues where when they try to do night training, and as Representative Carver will tell you, they do training for all kinds of law enforcement in our region, because it's a really nice facility, and they've had everybody from SBI to all kind of SWAT tactical from all the different counties, everybody. And you have to have the night training. And so every time there is, even though they notify, they're getting continuous calls made on them, and the county's coming out, and I hate to use the word harass, but there's a lot of back and forth going on, and this would basically put it in that they are allowed to do night training at this facility. So hopefully that will quell some of the issues. And it's within about a mile of my house, and I rarely hear any gunfire. So it's not that I think it's a problem, but I'm sure there's some people that probably didn't want it right beside them, but it's a needed thing to be able to train our law enforcement.
Representative Budd.
I have a question for the bill sponsor.
Certainly.
Miss-
Go ahead.
Oh,
Question.
I'm sorry. I thought he's.
Yeah.
I apologize for
They
that.
don't recognize
No,
you.
I heard Representative McNeely talking about training, and I was the one who brought that up. So I appreciate you listening and bringing that in terms of talking about it. But you also mentioned that while there is no training required here or anything, I had also talked to you about some safe storage here, and you wanted to leave this broad. Is it too broad because these smaller private schools could just have someone's dad or a school volunteer show up with a gun, and they are the ones who are designated with the safety of the school at this point, but they have no training, no background in law enforcement? And aren't we just asking for an accident if that's the case?
Representative McNeely, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good question. What we're hoping is this will allow for possibly security guards who are not able, people who do have training, but they do not fall under law enforcement, to be able to be there on hand and hopefully offer some level of protection. Once again, this does not circumvent our concealed carry law in the state of North Carolina, which is in place right now. And so they would have to have that to have a concealed handgun on them, and they would carry this gun on their person. So far as the storage part, I don't see where that's necessary. They would maintain possession of this firearm at all times while on this campus.
Thank you. Further questions? Representative Butler.
Is to speak on the bill, please.
Okay, certainly. Go ahead.
So we think guns in schools are a good idea. That's curious to me because teachers don't think that school and guns go together. Polling consistently shows that 78% of North Carolina teachers do not favor guns in schools. And this bill would put guns in the hands of any person who has a concealed carry permit with the permission of whoever's in charge of the school. The problem with that, of course, is that to get a concealed carry permit right now requires 8 hours of training. Law enforcement, on the other hand, who are trained to respond to active shooter circumstances, have over 600 hours of training. And even then, they don't often get it right. So this bill endangers students, it endangers teachers, and people don't want it. So you're telling the teachers of North Carolina that we don't really care what you say. We're going to foist these guns into your schools and just kind of see how it goes. And if HB 5 passes, you won't even get 8 hours of training. It'll be just anybody who's 18 years old with a gun can wander onto private school property. So that's a problem. And we have firsthand experience with this. Here in North Carolina, in February of 2024, when we passed the bill that allowed guns into educational circumstances at churches, and I was here, I remember that very well, just almost immediately after passage of that bill, a church staff member who was a legal concealed carry permit holder left her gun in the restroom where it was found by an elementary age child. So accidents are going to happen. That is just a fact. So teachers don't want it. We know in North Carolina when we expand gun usage into schools that accidents happen. There is no training to speak of. And for all of these reasons, this is just a terrible bill. And the idea that we have to put guns in the hands of good guys to protect against the bad guys is just fallacious. You know, you're suggesting that every person who's carrying a gun is going to hear gunshots and run in that direction. I just don't believe that to be true. So this is not a good bill for North Carolina. It's not a good bill for educational premises. It's not good for teachers. It's not good for students. And it's certainly not good for morale within an educational facility. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Budd.
I just wanted to speak to the bill following on Representative Butler's comment there with respect to HB 5 that should that pass or its Senate bill companion, that effectively we are saying it is quite all right to put someone's dad or a school volunteer in charge of a school with a gun with absolutely no requirement that they be trained and allowed to demonstrate proficiency with a firearm in an educational setting. In addition to that, there's also no requirement that whomever this person is, whether or not HB 5 passes or not, that person's identity is disclosed to the local law enforcement agency in the event that there is a dangerous situation at a school that law enforcement arrives at. So you are essentially then placing your good guy with a gun with law enforcement, and law enforcement does not necessarily know that person's there. It is a bad bill. We don't need guns in schools. We need to address the root causes of what the violence is stemming from. Giving more guns to people is not addressing root causes.
Representative Carver.
Question for the bill sponsor.
Representative McNeely.
Yes, sir.
So, this is not a requirement, right?
No,
If
this is-
I run a private school, I wouldn't be required to have these people on my property, right?
No, all this does is allow somebody that basically owns or administrates at a private school to be able to have their Second Amendment right.
And if I ran
Right now it's denied.
And if I ran a private school and I wanted you to be that person, then I have to give you written permission allowing that.
Correct.
Further
So-
questions?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay, great.
So the narrative about the teacher being, not wanting the gun, if the teacher doesn't want the gun in the classroom, then the gun's not there, right?
Correct, sir.
Unless the leader of the school has signed off saying that it should be there
And that person would have to ask that leader of that school to allow it to be there.
and have written
Yeah,
permission
to
in their
have it.
possession
Exactly.
to do that.
So basically, the administrator can pick who they want to be their, we'll say, representative of their Second Amendment right.
No further questions.
Further discussion? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative McNeely, I think you said earlier that it was also aimed at private security companies. I have several Christian schools in my county that contract with private security companies that are not police officers. Is that what you're referring to?
Representative McNeely.
Yes, sir, it is. Right now, those security officers who are trained still cannot carry on private or public school grounds.
Further discussion? Representative Butler.
To speak to the bill a second time.
Go ahead.
So if the administrator of the school wants guns on the property, then that's the person that makes the decision. It's not the teachers, to be clear. And secondly, I don't know who thinks a school administrator has sufficient knowledge and background and experience to determine whether or not guns are appropriate and who's appropriate person to use them. I imagine a circumstance where I've got this decision before me. It's a decision that should be that of policymakers, not an administrator, first of all. But secondly, that person sits down and decides, well, I think I should hire someone with a gun to patrol around. And then an accident happens and a child gets accidentally killed. That person in that school is horribly responsible, number one. Or number two, I don't like guns in schools. I think I won't have guns in schools. And then they're going to be sued by some person from having made that decision. This is a policy decision that we need to make. We need to say no to guns in schools and leave it at that, and not put administrators on the horns of a dilemma like this.
Further discussion, further debate? Seeing none, and I didn't see anybody from the audience signed up to speak, so it's an appropriate time for a motion. Representative Carver moves the adoption of House Bill 193 with a referral to education. Education K-12. Thank you for the correction. Further discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, the question before the body is the passage of House Bill 193 on before the committee. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and the bill will be so reported.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee.
Thank you. Yes, it is. Next, I'm going to jump down to House Bill 478. It looks like it could be the least controversial. House Bill 478 to appoint the appointment process for district attorneys. And it's the original bill.
Yes.
Representative Balcom, you are recognized to present your bill.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Chair. This bill aligns with the rest of the judicial appointed process. It preserves local voice and accountability. It restores balance to the DAs. We maintain the governor's role. It protects the will of the voters. It also basically, the bill brings district attorneys' vacancies in line with how we already handle judicial and constitutional vacancies in North Carolina. The bill ensures recommendations are within the 30 days, preventing long delays. If no recommendations are made in that time, the governor still has full authority to appoint as usual. Let's see. Yeah, I'll text him.
Further questions, further discussion? Representative Smith.
Motion when appropriate.
All right. Questions or Representative Butler? It's okay.
Okay, so this does change the way DA vacancies are appointed. Of course, right now, the governor has the full authority to do that. In fact, I'm informed that he's already appointed a vacancy since he's been governor, and he appointed a Republican. And so while I know y'all might not think you're ever going to have the governor's mansion again, at some point a Republican's going to be there, and that authority should sit with whomever occupies that role. This is part and parcel of the same trend that we've seen in this body to strip the governor of his appointment powers. And it's just, again, if we want to continue to have the separation of powers, if we want checks and balances, we will leave these appointments alone. The governor has proven already in his short tenure that he picks the best person for the job, and we should leave it that way.
Representative Budd, did you have a comment?
I just had a comment with respect to the bill. It does not sit well with me as an attorney, and while I don't practice in the criminal courts quite a bit, my expectation is that when I do encounter the district attorneys where I practice law, that they heed the maxim that justice is blind. And so when we begin to instruct by the General Assembly enacting legislation from what political party a district attorney should be selected from when a vacancy is created, we are now not heeding that maxim of justice is blind. We are adding to it until the legislature gives it eyes. That is, in effect, not what the purpose of a district attorney is supposed to be doing. They are not policy advocates for political purposes. They are prosecutors representing the state of North Carolina when it comes to protecting the interests of victims and the state's interest in other matters where it has jurisdiction. So I oppose the idea that we need to legislate what the governor does or strip the governor of his powers when it comes to putting people in office in these vacancies.
Further questions, discussion? Seeing none, I don't have anyone from the public signed up to speak. Representative Smith, Carson Smith, you are recognized.
I move for a favorable report to House Bill 478 with a referral to election law.
You've heard the motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and it will be so reported. Next, I'm going to take up Utility Workers Protection Act because that one seems to have the least controversy, I think, least hair on it. Utility Workers Protection Act, House Bill 258. Representative Miller, and do you have a co-sponsor? No?
Yeah, Representative Jeffers.
Representative Jeffers, you're recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 258 is the Utility Worker Protection Act, and what it does is it increases the punishment for assaulting a utility or communications worker to a Class 1 misdemeanor. There's been cases in our state of utility workers being assaulted while simply trying to do their job. This bill covers any employee of any entity that provides electricity, natural gas, water, wastewater, telecommunication services, or internet access services. It's our job to ensure that those who are trying to ensure we have access to reliable energy and utilities feel more comfortable while doing their job. And I will stand for any questions unless Representative
Well, if you let
Jeffers.
me on.
Okay.
Representative Jeffers, is there anything you want to add? Any members of the committee having comment or discussion? Representative Budd.
I have something positive to say.
Oh, no.
I know, I see that face, Representative Miller, and Representative Jeffers is relieved. I think this is well, I knew you were trying to butter me up, but it worked. No, having said that, I think it's a good bill. I think it addresses some very legitimate concerns that utility workers and whatnot have had and brought to our attention. So I just want to say thank you for your work on this. You and maybe Representative Jeffers, maybe.
Okay, I'm sorry, what?
For motion when appropriate.
Was that a motion when appropriate? Well, we're not appropriate yet, but we can wait. Any members of the committee have any other comments or concerns? If not, we have one member of the public signed up to speak. Dalton Ashworth, if you'll come forward. You have up to 2 minutes. Let's get a microphone.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. My name is Dalton Ashworth. I represent Electricities of North Carolina. Electricities of North Carolina is a membership organization that supports more than 70 community-owned electric systems across North Carolina. We manage the power supply for 51 power systems and offer our members a range of innovative services to help our members and their communities thrive now and in the future. In recent years, utility workers in North Carolina's 70-plus public power communities have faced a disturbing number of both verbal and physical assaults. Our community's employees have been threatened, punched, had firearms pointed at them, had dogs set loose on them, and in some cases have been forced to deploy police officers to protect utility workers while they carry out their duties. Electricities commends the co-sponsors and sponsors of House Bill 258 for their dedication to protecting utility workers, and we strongly support its passage. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And bill sponsors, anything more you wish to say? Seeing nothing, any further discussion from the committee? If not, it's appropriate time for a motion. Representative Carson Smith.
Oh, no, you're up.
Well, we tried to get Laura Budd to do it, but she, even though she likes the bill, she just cannot bring herself to pass one.
Thank you.
Representative Budd, you are recognized.
I make a motion that, House Bill 258 was, why you interrupt me? Have a favorable report to rules.
Favorable report and referred to rules.
Yes.
You've sort of heard a motion.
I apologize. Representative Carson Smith over here interrupted me. It's
All right.
to have a favorable report and referred to rules.
You've heard the motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill will be so reported. Thank you. Now we get to have fun. Representative Zinger and Jackson, Almond, and Willis, you're all recognized. House Bill 301, and there's a PCS, and without objection, a PCS is before us. And Representative Zinger, you're recognized to present your bill.
Thank you. Well, this bill is a bill to prevent minors from being on social media, and here's the why of the bill. First of all, our kids, predators have access to our kids at an unprecedented level. at this time, more than ever in our history. And one of their number one tools is social media. And so what we want to do is try to prevent that. We want to try to protect our children from that. Number two is if you go out and you Google and you look at anything up about the positive results of kids being on social media, you will find none. In fact, you will find all kinds of things that have come from that: mental health issues, bullying, and so on and so forth. So as a parent who has fought the battle of screen time with 4 kids who are now all in their 20s, it is a raging battle. And so the idea was to put something up that would be a backstop for parents so that they could help regulate this and help kind of stand with this battle. The PCS is before you because we had some stakeholders that had some concerns, and so we worked with them, and we actually had the bill on the calendar for last week, and we pulled it so that we could go ahead and put some more language in so that they would be happy. And as far as I know that they are. I will lastly say that what was really surprising to me has been the overwhelming support. I like the bill. I like the idea. We all worked on it, and I thought this would be great. But what's been amazing to me is people from every single walk of life have reached out to me and said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I don't know of any opposition at this time, and I stand for questions. Well, I know you will, but that's okay. That's why I brought Neil.
Questions or comments from the committee? Representative Butler. See, I told you. Representative Butler, you're
Representative Singer,
She wants to make a motion.
for a question, please. Could you share with us who the stakeholders were, what their objections were, and what you did to address them?
Yeah, we were talking with the Retail Association, and they came to us about online commerce and email and educational videos, all these different kind of things. And so if you look, we really narrowed down the scope as to what that would be, including like gaming was also an issue. And so we put some parameters in there for that.
Further questions?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I have heard from some of the leaders in the industry too, and one objection or concern is the definition of social media platform being defined very broadly, and they feel like this dragnet might include platforms and websites that are not necessarily in the social media business. Have you heard that objection?
Well, that's part of what we talked about with the Retail Association folks, and that's why we changed some of the language specifically to deal with that.
Okay, how did you do that?
Oh, my. We'll have to
You
go
want to
back.
defer to staff?
Huh?
You can defer to staff if you need to.
Yeah. There you
Ms.
go.
Seitz is on staff. Going to help you understand.
Representative Butler, if you'll look at page 2, beginning on line 27, there is an expanded list of types of services that are not included in the definition of social platform. They added community forums where the primary purpose of the forum is for customer service support, products, that sort of thing. Interactive video game services equipped with parental controls, online shopping, e-commerce. And then the online service website or application where the exclusive function is email or direct messaging was already included, and so the additional ones were added as exclusions from that definition.
Further questions?
Thank you for the, yes, please.
Okay.
I've also, some of the other objections that I have been made aware, because again, this is very technical in nature, and I think that, the more you learn about it, the less you realize you do know. So the age verification process and the ability to verify parental consent also seem to be giving people in the space heartburn. Do you have any insight as to how this is going to work in practicality?
Representative Singer.
Yeah, it's already being used in a number of different cases. I mean, you have to have age verification if you want to gamble. You have to have age verification if you're going to buy alcohol online. You have to have age verification if you want to go on, like gunbroker.com where people sell guns. You have to have, so that's not this is not cutting new ground. The age verification is already out there for a number of things.
And how about the parental consent part? I'm sorry.
You may propound your question, you may answer. Okay.
I don't think the parental consent part should be an issue too. I'm not going to come up with a system for them to do that, but parental consent is used in all kinds of things. So again, I don't think that we're cutting new ground and creating something absolutely new here. I think we just need the social media platforms to come up with a way that works for them. That's their business, not mine.
And just two more questions, please.
Okay, if I can sort of intervene here a minute. it might be helpful if you have people complaining about these very specific issues that we put them in touch with Representative Zinger so that he knows how to focus and look on what he's looking at. Would you recognize for additional questions?
Thank you. I sure will do that. What about the circumstance if a child is in, say, foster care? How do we get parental consent there?
I'll answer that one.
You go ahead.
I'll answer that one because we established that a while back, that if you are in foster care, in a proper foster care placement, the person with whom you're placed in foster care has a reasonable, prudent parent standard. They can do what a normal parent would do. So the foster parent, we don't have to go through DSS anymore. The foster parent has that reasonable, prudent parent standard. Very proud of working on that legislation myself. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. And I think that there are other issues too. If you're just living with a grandmother part of the time, I mean, this is going to be a little more difficult to implement than I think we even can begin to recognize. But lastly, I'll say this just to speak on the bill, please. A lot of people have also concerns about the privacy of data and where all of this data is going to go. And other states have used an approach rather than making these prohibitions. They have taken what they view as a long-term approach and advocated for digital literacy and safe internet, curriculum in schools. And we don't really have that in North Carolina. We've kind of woven it into various classes and so forth. But if you do a little research on the issue, and I have, you'll find that many states have taken either a two-pronged approach by trying some prohibitions on the one hand to get at the short-term safety of our children, which is a good thing, but they have also built into the curriculum some educational elements so that children are prepared for the long term to make wise choices. The other fear is, of course, that if you clamp down too hard and you don't educate children about the best practices of the internet, then you force them into the darker places of the internet. And so I just raise these concerns because, again, there may be an educational piece we need to dovetail with it. Maybe yours is a short-term way to address this complicated issue. But the long-term approach for, again, internet safety and digital literacy is something that we ought to take a look at too. Thank you.
All right. Additional questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, we have one person signed up to speak. Let's see if I can pronounce it. Relayla Collins, the ACLU. We'll pronounce your name again. We'll give you up to 2 minutes.
Hi, Rayla Collins from the ACLU of North Carolina. While protecting children online is imperative, this bill would undermine child safety and impose likely unconstitutional restrictions on young people's ability to engage online. All U.S. residents, including minors, have First Amendment rights to access information and express themselves, so you can't wholesale kick them off social media. Today, the internet is our nation's primary marketplace of ideas, and social media's primary purpose is to allow users to speak. So to foreclose access to social media altogether is to prevent the user from engaging in the legitimate exercise of their First Amendment rights. Also, what we know is that when social media is unusable, kids don't stop using the internet. They just find alternative spaces where harmful content, predatory behavior, and extremism are even harder to detect and prevent. So I'll stop there.
Thank you for your comments. See if the bill sponsors, any of you have additional comments you wish to make? Seeing none, it's an appropriate time for a motion. I'm guessing Representative Butler does not want to file a motion. Representative Carson Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for a favorable report to the PCS of House Bill 301, unfavorable to the original with a referral to Commerce.
Commerce and Economic Development. You've heard the motion. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and the bill will be so reported. That being the conclusion of our business for the day, if there's nothing further from the committee, we will stand adjourned.